If you're a beginner looking at getting into hand tool woodworking, or you've been doing woodworking for a while and you'd like to incorporate hand tools into your workflow, you may be looking for one of these. And if you have no idea where to start, I might be able to assist. How's it? My name is Dylan and this is Ply Creations. Welcome. In today's episode, I'm going to try and help you decide on your first hand plane. Now, there is a hand plane that I consistently suggest beginners start with, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute. But what I would like to do in this video is line my suggestion up with 4 criteria and tell you why I like it. The first would be cost. The second we're going to be looking at is availability. Thirdly is we're going to look at ease of use. And finally, we're going to discuss versatility. Now, I completely understand that if you are a beginner and you are deciding on which hand plane you should be getting, is that the opinion and the information out of there can be quite overwhelming. And I'm about to add my opinion to that. So hopefully by the end of this video, my suggestion will make a little bit more sense. So for those extremely curious of you out there, let me put you out of your misery. This is what I would suggest you get, and that is a number 5, or also known as a jack plane. This one is a old record or a Stanley. This one is from a more contemporary manufacturer. It's called a Rider, but any one of those will work. So if you are watching this and you're doing some online shopping and you've got your mouse over the buy button and it happens to be a number 5, you can call it a day. Go on, buy it, pull the trigger, and you won't be sorry. If you'd like to have more information around why I make this particular suggestion, stick around and see how my suggestion of the number 5, lines up with those 4 criteria. And we'll start with cost. So let me start this section with a somewhat controversial statement. Some of you may agree, some of you may not, and that is that there's no such thing as a cheap hand plane, or at least no such thing as a cheap hand plane worth having. It doesn't mean that you're going to need to pay hundreds or thousands of dollars to get your hands on one of these, and there's a whole range of price points you can look at. But what I would like to suggest is that you avoid the really cheap ones that you find out there. Of course, that is unless you are completely comfortable with setting up and tuning a hand plane. And as a beginner, I doubt that you would be comfortable getting a really cheap hand plane to work properly. There's a reason why they're so cheap. But there's a full price range, as I've mentioned, from your classic vintage hand planes that are readily available there. They have gotten more expensive as hand tool woodworking has become more popular, but also your mid-range manufacturers, and I'm thinking about manufacturers like Quangsheng, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, or Shoba, and I'll leave the links in the description where you can find out more about those. And out of those factories, you've got different name brands. I'm thinking Wood River, I'm thinking Lubin comes out of those factories, and honestly, they don't have to stand back to any one of the premium hand planes. Of course, you can go up into the premium, the rarefied air of premium hand planes, but they provide little advantage as far as functionality goes. They are made to better tolerances, they work better out of the box, they need less fettling, and usually they're blades of better quality. But neither of these 2 hand planes that you see in front of you here should stand back as far as functionality and being able to do the job. So for me, it ticks the box for cost. And next we move on to availability. And on to the next criteria, and that is availability. Now, if there's one word to describe the number 5s and the number 4s in the world, that would be ubiquitous. You can almost find them anywhere. In my market, especially the number 4s, we have more of them available than the number 5s in our second-hand market. But then again, we had the contemporary manufacturers, and of course they have their own range of hand planes available, and quite honestly, of the mainstream manufacturers, I don't know of anyone that doesn't have a number 5 in their catalog. Something that's not always mentioned is the availability of spare parts, and that is especially the case with the classics. And there's very little on these that you cannot fix, that you also cannot get spares for. So spares are readily available for them. Another thing that's not always mentioned is the availability of spare parts made by contemporary manufacturers, and you can upgrade the chib rate. And what's quite popular is to upgrade the blades on the classic hand planes. So availability wise, generally they are available. However, that's apart from one part, and that is the screw that holds the chib rake and the blade together. For some of the other obscure reason, don't seem to be able to find those in my neck of the woods, and I'm firmly convinced that those screws go to the same place that lost socks go. So if you do find them, let me know. But availability wise, the number 5 ticks the box. 2 boxes ticked and 2 more to go. But before we do, I'd like to extend a friendly invitation to you guys out there watching. If you have any suggestions other than a number 5 or a jack as the first hand plane for a beginner, let us know in the comment section, but please also include your reasons why. I love to learn from others, especially if they differ in opinion from me. Include your reasons, please, so that everybody who reads your comments will learn along with me. Secondly, if you agree with me, let me know in the comment section. And thirdly, let's have some fun with this one. Let me know what the first hand plane was that you got in your collection. This one here is my second one, was the second one I got, and my first one was something completely different. I'll let you know at the end of the video what that was. So, on to ease of use. So how hard is a number 5 to use? Well, no harder than any one of the hand planes that you see in front of you here. It's a little bit easier to use than one of these. I love wooden hand planes, and anybody who's spent any time working with these well set up wooden bodied plane, there's nothing that compares with that. But back to these. So on the right hand side, or my right hand side here, you've got the number 4, and this is often suggested as a entry level or a first hand plane for a beginner. Now, there's nothing that a number 5 can do that a number 4 cannot do. It will do everything that a number 5 does. So there's very little comparison. However, what you will notice is the length of the hand planes, and you'll see that the sole of a number 5 is longer than that of a number 4. Now, the longer the hand plane is, the easier it is to process larger sections of stock. So although a number 4 will do everything that a number 5 does, you'll find, or you may find as a beginner, and this is my opinion, that you can do so easier using the number 5 as a result of its longer sole. And that will also come into play in the next point when we start talking about versatility. Moving over to this hand plane here, this is a 5.5, and this is another hand plane that is often suggested for beginners. Now, I love my 5.5. It's a great plane, and I've been looking for one for quite a long time. On my channel, I flattened this. I'll leave the link on the screen for you to go and check that out. Now, between the two, you will notice that the 5.5 is both wider and slightly longer. That makes it heavier. And although that carries some advantages, as a beginner, you may struggle with the size of a 5.5 on smaller workpieces, and because of its weight, you may get tired a little bit quicker than you may with something like the 5. So compared between the two, the number 5 still gets my vote. And on to the final tick box, and in my opinion, frankly, quite possibly the most important, and that is versatility. If you are a beginner and you've got a limited budget, versatility is key. You want to invest in tools that can do more than one job and can do those jobs quite well, and you want a tool that you're going to enjoy using and therefore make your learning process so much easier. And the number 5 is supremely versatile. First, we look at the length of the sole, or the length of the hand plane. The rule of thumb is that you can easily process stock that is typically double the length of your sole. Now, you can process stock that is larger, but that is the rule of thumb. The reason why I prefer the 5 over the 4 is exactly that. It is its length. Now, there's nothing a number 5 can do that a number 4 cannot do, but the learning curve is slightly steeper because of the shorter sole. Of course, if you take my jointer here, that is the same. So this will process larger sections of stock easier, and this hand plane is a surprisingly good smoothing plane, and I've used it for that before. Don't tell anyone. But back to the number 5. So its length makes it versatile for processing raw lumber. Then you have multiple hand planes in one, and the way that you can change how it works is by simply adding different blades that are set up for different purposes. And this is where the availability of spares come into play, and the fact that new blades or other blades are readily available. So you can have a blade set up as a smoother. You can have this hand plane set up for routine work, as a routine bench plane, and then by adding a blade that has a bit of a camber, you can also then change it into a scrub plane that will do heavy material removal when you process your lumber. By using different blades in the same plane body, you just simply swap them out and the plane will do different things. So as I mentioned, it is supremely versatile, and it's not called a jack plane for naught, because it is a jack of all trades. And that is why the number 5 is, in my opinion, possibly the best first hand plane for a beginner or somebody just getting into hand tool woodworking or incorporating hand tools into your workshop. This is the second video in my series of hand plane basics. Please consider liking and subscribing. There are more videos coming out. Keep an eye on my channel. I'm also partnering that with articles on my website. I've already written 3. I'll leave you a barcode on the screen that you can scan to get access to my blog. That, though, brings us to the end of another edition of Ply Creations. As always, thank you so much for joining me in my workshop. Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section, especially the ones saying which is your first plane. By the way, my first hand plane is this little guy. This was my Lubin low angle block plane, my very first hand plane. I love this plane. It's also the most used plane in my workshop. But as I say goodbye, I hope you have a good one. Be safe in your own workshop. Seriously, have a look at the number 5. You won't be sorry. And until I see you again next time, cheers.